Hi everyone, I'm Braden,
I'm Peter.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Joe.
and today we'll be presenting our analysis of the adoption tax credit under IRC Section 23. We'll be walking through how the credit works, the impact of recent changes, insight from two stakeholders, outside research data, our ChatGPT findings, and then finally our group's recommendations. Here's just a quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. We're going to start with just a quick summary of how the adoption credit works, and then we'll introduce our two stakeholders and their perspectives. After that, we'll present outside research and trends in adoption. We'll also explain how AI contributed to our project, and finally, we'll give our group's overall conclusion and proposed modifications to the policy.
Just to begin, the adoption tax credit was originally made to help reduce the financial burden of adopting a child. For 2025, the maximum credit from an individual or married filing jointly's tax liability is $17,280 per qualified child. In order to qualify as a qualified child, they must be under 18 years of age as well, or they're unable for self-care, and only reasonable and necessary adoption expenses qualify. This basically means that all of the expenses in the process of adoption need to be documented and sent in for approval that they are directly related to the adoption. For United States adoptees, residents, or citizens, the taxpayer can claim the credit in the year that the adoption process starts. And then for non-US adoptees, they can claim when the adoption is final. This difference has a big effect because these processes can usually take years, if not multiple years. And so the timing of the credit can create a little difference. And then finally, the One Beautiful Big Bill Act changed the adoption tax to a fully refundable $5,000 portion, allowing families with low tax liability to receive still parts of the benefit. This credit is inflation adjusted, and then phase outs for the entire um, tax credit start at around 259,000 for mild married filing jointly, and they end at around 299,000. So for our two stakeholders, we chose to get someone who was a tax expert and a current CPA, as well as someone who went through the adoption experience. We thought that these two different stakeholders would give good perspectives from different sides of the process. Our first stakeholder was Rob Shinoni, a CPA with 30 years of accounting experience. He explained how the credit currently operates and how the One Big Beautiful Bill Act changes expanded access. He pointed out that the non-refundable portion still favors middle-income families, and he noted the differences between the US and international adoptions, where international families can't claim the credit until the finalization. The US forms are something that is very stressed in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It is very domestic heavy, so he figured that this was the reason that they didn't really make any changes to that part of the bill, and then that the refundable portion is not exactly perfect for helping lower income families adopt, but it is definitely a step in the right direction as it offers more flexibility.
Okay, so for our second stakeholder, we interviewed Lily King, who's a current senior at PC. So some background for her. She was born in Huanan province in China. She was adopted in March 2005, and her older sister was also adopted from China in 2002. Lily didn't know much about the tax policy, but she understood how it was good that the government's trying to encourage lower income houses to be able to afford adoption. Her adoption costed her parents about 15,000, and the process took 2 years to accomplish. She felt that the amount could be a little higher, considering all the effort, time, money that her parents went through just to adopt her. And she felt that the declining adoption rates of abroad children was not only due to the tax benefits, but she was just surprised to see how much it declined from the time she was born. Possible reasons for this could be longer waiting times, the cost of traveling, security of these different organizations, and the increased amounts to adopt. Okay, so looking at some outside research data, looking at the national data, foster care adoptions make up about 66.48% of all adoptions. Private domestic adoptions account for 31.64%, and international adoptions make up only about 1.88%. Private domestic adoptions often cost between 25 and 60,000, while international adoptions cost between 20 and 50,000. The median household income of adoptive families is around 73,000, which suggests that the credit is used most by middle income families. We also identified declines in the adoption related outcomes between 2019 and 2022, emphasizing the need for policies that improve accessibility. If the goal is to encourage adoption, these trends show that stronger incentives may be needed.
Here are three charts that we identified as supporting our argument from the last slide. You can see in this first chart here, it shows that adoptions from foster care are most common, followed by private domestic adoptions, and then international adoptions being the least common. This slide shows a decline in adoptions across our country from 2013 to 2022. And then this third chart shows that about 54% of people claiming the adoption credit were in the $50,000 to $100,000 AGI range, showing that it gives a good opportunity to benefit people who aren't extremely high earners and around that middle income range. So we did ask ChatGPT for their thoughts on the adoption credit. We thought it gave us a lot of good information that we agreed with, but it was also a mix of some not fully up-to-date information. It did identify the purpose of the tax credit being to reduce the financial burden of adoption and support children in need. However, it didn't correctly identify the 2025 tax credit amounts. It was showing us amounts from different years. But it was able to identify how it encourages family to adopt, helps with family stability, and reduce financial burden. It also was able to identify some cons about the tax credit, being how lower income families aren't able to fully benefit, but it does help middle income families, as well as the complex amount of paperwork and rules that go along with it. So overall, it gave a good overall framework about the tax credit and was a good start for us.
And lastly, for our final opinions and arguments, as a group, we believe the adoption tax credit should be kept, but with modifications. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act made major improvements, especially with the new refundable portion. So we think it's important to kind of give the bill some time to evaluate what its impact is as a whole on society and kind of just adoptions as a whole. And then, however, we do recommend expanding refundability to help those lower income families and simplifying the rules for international adoptions just so that they're able to start and claim the credit earlier within the process. And especially if the goal is to increase adoption rates, especially along those lower income households, it's good to focus on like that refundable amount being able to match the full credit. Thank you so much for your time, and we're happy to open up for any questions now.